Welcome to Stand Up for Doctors. I'm your host, Kim Downey. Thank you so much for being here. If you're a doctor, your voice matters. And on this podcast, you'll hear from colleagues who are choosing connection, courage, and humanity as they navigate today's healthcare climate. If you're a healthcare leader or a patient, your voice belongs here too, because these are the stories and conversations shaping the future of care. This podcast is about connection, advocacy, and building a healthier future for doctors and patients. If this matters to you, please like and subscribe. It helps these voices reach the people who need them most. And I would like to say that we're hosting an amazing physician retreat October 9 to 12, 2026 at Windrose on Hudson in Ossining, New York. It will be a soul-filling event for doctors. Beatriz is already registered and Ryan is welcome to join us. I can tell him more about it. CMEs will be available. Please reach out for more information if you're a doctor interested in attending, or if anyone would like to sponsor our retreat, we can create sponsorship to fit your budget. The registration link will be in the show notes. And today is another very special and exciting day. I'd like to welcome back Dr. Beatriz Olson, Dr. Ryan McCarthy, and welcome Jodie Green. Thanks for joining us today, my friends.
Oh, thanks for having us.
Great to
You're
be here.
you're you're
Pleasure.
Thank you. You're very welcome. And we've come together to continue celebrating the launch of the latest book in our Stand Up for Doctor series, White Coats, Human Hearts, True Stories of Healing, Belonging, and the Courage to Stay Human in Medicine, available on Amazon, Kindle, and paperback. And Beatriz and Ryan are both authors in our book, and Jodie wrote the afterword. And I would like to take a moment for you to introduce ourselves. So, Beatriz, what would you most like our audience to know about you?
Well, I am an integrative endocrinologist, multiply board certified, and tired of taking exams every 10 years, but delighted to be in the service of humanity. And I've gone through difficult times through the process of medicine, and I think that's why we're here, to talk about the price that we pay to do what we love and how can we make this better. So that's what I want people to know. I'm an artist, I'm an author, and I am a clinician, a wife, and a mother.
Well, I love that. And Beatriz has an art show, one woman art show that premiered this past weekend, and I got to go see it in person. And that was a really wonderful celebration. And you'll be able to share a bit more about that soon if you would like to. So, Ryan, what would you like our audience to know about you?
Hi, everyone. I'm Ryan McCarthy. I am an internal medicine doctor in West Virginia. I would describe myself as a father, husband, doctor, dog owner. I am often found restoring myself, either playing outside in the countryside in West Virginia where I live, or nurturing myself through the expression of humor or other artistic things, usually designed to stimulate my senses and keep me laughing.
That's beautiful. And your chapter speaks to that wonderfully. And Jodie, what would you like us to know about you?
I am the CEO, president, and founder of the Clinician Burnout Foundation. I'm not a clinician, but I've always had an attitude of gratitude. And everyone, each of you, all physicians, providers, I never mean to offend. Some people don't like to be called clinicians. I'm trying to be inclusive. And I'll just tell you, like in a few seconds, it's very personal for me. Kim knows this story. I've been a caregiver since the age of 17 when I was in high school for my mother, who recently passed away, very severe anxiety conditions, and my brother, who's autistic, and he's older, he's in his 60s. They didn't even have the word autism until the 80s, right? And they just said he's mentally retarded, put him in a warehouse. And so over time, like, I didn't want to do that. So I took responsibility and I loved them. And it was really hard pre-internet too to find even a speech therapist, an occupational, a pediatrician who would take my mother seriously, not pat her on the head, back then. And so I've always had an attitude of gratitude. And this is a public charity that I think of as the first healthcare burnout first responder, because we're not doing research. We're literally giving things to help reduce burnout and also, address moral injury. So I'm honored to be here. Thanks, Kim.
You're welcome, Jody, and thank you for all of your efforts. So how we'll do this is we'll go through the parts. Our book is divided into four parts, and part one is Seeing the Unseen, the humanity behind the white coat. And I wrote the first chapter and titled it Doctors Are Human Too. And in our last episode, we did hear from Dr. Drew Remignanti and Pamela Marie Hobby, who also wrote chapters in the first part. And in that episode, I shared how I started the chapter. So in this one, I'm going to share how I end the chapter. And I end it by saying, when was the last time you asked your doctor, how are you doing? Doctors are not machines. They are not superhuman. They are people with stories, with scars, and with souls. In this book, we remove the white coat not to diminish the importance of what it represents, but to reveal what lies underneath a human heart, just like yours.
Oh, I love that. It's beautiful.
And that's true. You're people, right? You're people too. And Beatrice and I have had some discussions about things like this. And even I got to chat with her husband. I got to meet Eric this weekend and we had a lovely chat. And let's get started with your chapter. And that's in part two, When the Calling Hurts, Grief, Moral Injury, and the Long Way Back. So share a little bit with us about your chapter. And last time we also heard from Dr. Jennifer Lysette, who wrote a chapter in this section as well.
My chapter is called Elegant Endings, and it is chapter 5 in the book. And my chapter has to do with the process of death and how I became deeply, deeply depressed as an intern when my first patient died. And I didn't recognize at that point that part of my work was to actually deal with death or to help patients die. And I became deeply depressed. I'm an internist first, and I was in the Department of Medicine at the University of Pittsburgh. And I wanted to leave medicine. I wanted to apply to radiology because I would deal with images and not humans. And I was very fortunate that the head of my internal medicine division said, okay, you applied to radiology, and I did get in. But also they supported me. They wanted me to be well. And I began working with a psychiatrist. I began taking Wellbutrin, which is a dopamine activator agonist. And with time, and I read books that helped me to understand that my depression was actually a call from my soul to understand and honor who I truly am, and to have empathy and patience with myself, as I could not have known how to deal with death until I learned how to do it. So I went through this process and I became a better person. My journey through depression gives me the sense of compassion for my colleagues who consider suicide. Many of us do. Many of us doctors actually die. And how do we go through this process? How do we support each other to grow in the journey? And then towards the end, how is it that I could become a teacher to help medical students know how to remember their truth, how to serve others and understand that we don't lose ourselves, how to create our own Hippocratic oath, and how to deal with death with presence and love and understand that this is our job too. So I tell a story about a recent patient of mine who died, and how even I, as an endocrinologist, got a phone call as she was dying with stage 4 cancer to ask me how I thought she should end her life. So that's the journey. And I also, in this chapter, talk about the fact that I'm an artist, I'm an immigrant. I came in as a teenager and I'm the other. So art helped me to find myself, to be authentic, to continue to remember that part of myself that was colorful, as we all lose some color in the journey of becoming physicians. We become unmuted to fit in. And ultimately, how do we unmute ourselves? And how do we bring our essence, our feminine wisdom, if we're women, back into the journey? So that's my chapter. And that's also the work that I do, not just as a physician and an integrative medicine physician, but as an artist and as an author. And I'm very proud to be part of this movement to bring humanity back to medicine.
Well, thank you for sharing all of that, Beatrice. And I've said so many times, every time a doctor shares their story, another doctor feels less alone. And I feel like our work really does save lives in each of you, sharing your real, honest stories, because so many doctors have shared, they were told to put their head down and just keep going. Or they thought they were so alone. Like so many times they say, I thought it was just me. And every time I hear that, I'm like, oh my gosh. So it's like you all have, your stories are all unique to you, in some ways the same and in some ways different, right? But there's just that shared experience and shared humanity and shared hearts. And that's why I love the book. I love the title of our book. I love that this one brings together physicians and physician spouses and physician patients. And let's go on to part three, which is the part where Ryan shares a chapter, and the title of the part is Finding Each Other Again, Connection, Belonging, and Shared Weight. So, Ryan, you could share the title of your specific chapter and a little about why you chose to write about that.
I really appreciate the opportunity for this conversation, and it was really humbling to be asked to contribute a story to this volume. And I think one of the things that Beatrice said that really landed with me is that we all lose a little bit of color. I think that's a great description. So that's going to stay with me. And I have been in primary care for now almost 25 years, and I do it in my hometown of Martinsburg, West Virginia, which is a particular gift to be able to do that. It's also a particular kind of strain. And I didn't anticipate that at the beginning of my career. I often find myself without any separation between the professional me and the personal me. I can't go to church or to a high school football game. I can even tell you some funny stories of being asked medical advice in public restrooms in this town. Um, and that type of intimate, embedded in healthcare, if you will, is something that called me, and I still enjoy it. I love it. I love serving. However, I had no idea what it was doing to me, and so finding writing over the last 6 years has been a real gift. And I first started with an outward gaze into the stories of fellow healthcare workers and patient experiences during COVID-19. But a couple of years after that, I began to gaze inward and think about what was my personal journey and what brought me to where I am, and what is healthcare doing to me. I was losing that color, if you will. And my particular story, the chapter, I talk about growing up as a kid in West Virginia and being exposed to a diverse set of circumstances, which included public television that brought me intellectual rigor that really just spoke to me deeply as a super bright kid. I can't say enough, what the combination of Julia Child and Carl Sagan teaching me about French cooking and the cosmos. It spoke to a piece of me that nowhere else in my life did I have that experience. At the same time, I was surrounded by things that artistically spoke to me, from magazines that I saw, and music and those type of things, and they really had an impact both intellectually, and then these are humanities that started to blend inside of me while I wasn't paying attention. And now I know as I write and process about those things that humanities training in art, and being sensitive and knowing that that's a piece of me, I actually think that that's my secret sauce as an internist. Um, of course, piled on top of being competent in my job. Got to be competent. But that sensitivity is something that I write about. because I think that's what separates me, and it's what is authentically me. And so many of the conversations I have with my patients are about their artistic pursuits, whether it's crafts, whether it's the hand knit sweater that they're wearing, or a scarf, or the earrings that they've made. I look at those details and we have conversations and we find out what's meaningful to them. And I think in that shared space, we actually find healing together.
I love that, and you're such a beautiful writer. I've read many of your pieces, and also the way you both speak to creativity in the book is beautiful. And when I read your first draft and saw you mention Carl Sagan, I grinned. Of course, my science teacher was a huge fan of Carl Sagan, and that was always our homework was to watch those episodes. And I can think of billions and billions and billions. That will be with me forever.
Love it.
So thank you. So Jodie, tell us a little about your writing of the afterword and reading these stories.
Sure. And I just have to say, I'm so moved. And I've always thought of the practice of medicine as an art and a science.
Mhm.
Art, figuratively and metaphorically, but it's not like this is strict data, 1 + 1 = 2. You have what you've learned, but to apply it, you're listening to your patients, you're listening to yourselves, your inner self. And it's such a wonderful thing. And I love what you've both shared. It's really quite powerful and moving. And I'm very honored that Kim and I are partners. She's an ambassador for the Clinician Burnout Foundation, along with 20 other things, because Kim's, the master of all. She's the queen. Um, but I was very honored to have been invited to write that, and to do so. I was able to, I had galleys and I read everyone's stories, and just blew me away and very powerful. And so I attempted to, acknowledge that um, I, I agree with everything you've said, like mattering matters. We all need to be valued and respected. We need to feel seen and heard. I mean, that's the essence of any human being, and particularly for physicians like yourselves, because I mean, that's the moral injury that happens. And absolutely, to Beatrice's point, the idea of suicide, to me, one suicide is one too many. And so I wanted to try to pull everything together and capture that. And at the end of it, I just could hear all the voices in my head, not, through needing medication. Everyone's voices came through. That could be a different day. That's a different discussion. And I just felt like that. So I feel like we collectively can bring a great chorus of voices, right? And that raises awareness. It can shift public perception. It will influence policy. And I think that can ignite a real, lasting, life-saving chain reaction of change. And we do it together. And that's, I know, Kim's thing. And yeah, it takes all of us. So thanks, Kim.
Well, thank you, Jody. That was beautifully said, and that's my word of the year is together. And so I love that. And now speaking specifically, because both Beatrice and Ryan speak to art and creativity so wonderfully in their chapters. Beatrice, would you like to speak a little bit to art and what it's meant for you, or even describe the painting that's behind you? Whatever you wish to share.
Well, I want to talk about, thank you, Kim, because it's such a complex question when you talk about it. But I would say that art, in any way that we do it, is like listening to music if you have that sensitivity, or moving your body to a beautiful piece of music. There's something about the essence of who we are that is unperturbed by the surroundings. And I feel that art um, gives us the words that sometimes we don't have for the things that we're feeling. And we can express our emotions through colors in the most primitive to the most advanced ways, and putting it on the paper, using that sort of, it's a healer, it's a balm of healing, putting ourselves elsewhere. And it takes a lot of vulnerability at the end, as I have become an artist over the years and allowed myself as a physician, I wouldn't allow myself to do that because it was like terrible to take time to do something artistic or play. So I've evolved to give myself the gift, like you have the gift of going outside, Ryan. I allow myself the gift to put myself in my art space and to commune with my pieces. And yeah, so this little piece behind me has the journey of us women, and you can't see the whole thing, but in essence, on this side, you have where's my hand? On this side, you have the spirit of us coming down and entering the funnel in which we're going to enter into these incredible large halls and institutions and academic centers where we're going to be taught by professors that are going to teach us. And at the same time, we get these messages, you're not good enough. You're not wanted, you're not perfect, you're not this, you're not that. And at the end, we diminish ourselves in the process of being molded by what they want us to become to fit into the system. And at the end, how do we free ourselves? How do we find our own authenticity? And it's through that action, those small actions of doing something different that honors us, that brings us back to the essence, our humanity, the reason why we're here, the love of connecting with patients, the love of how patients give us what we give them. It's an exchange. We're energy and information. And that's our job. So art does that in many ways. And I feel very grateful. Just like writing, I have to give a plug to my Mind Body Secrets book. Where is it? Can you see it anywhere? No, you can't. You see, I was prevented, but I have a book called Mind Body Secrets, which talks about the spiritual and scientific aspects of being a physician. So that's what I want to share. I want to give you the thanks for this. And I just feel very honored to be a transformer in the space with you guys. Thank you.
Well, thank you. And we're honored to join our voices with yours. I know I could say that with confidence, speaking for everyone who wrote a chapter in our book. And in this book, we actually have one of Beatrice's paintings and also several. So Ryan, during the pandemic, started Healthcare is Human project, and we feature the artwork, photography of someone that he has collaborated with. So if you would like to speak a bit to the Healthcare is Human project, Ryan.
I'd love the opportunity. Yeah, Healthcare is Human is now in its sixth year. And I'd like to say that we are authentically telling stories in healthcare. And we do that by bringing together four different artists. And I like to say that we are embedded in healthcare. It's a physician, it's a photographer, Molly Humphreys, it's a poet, Renee Nicholson, and it's an audio producer, Kim Mattioli. And together we offer the opportunity for workers in healthcare to tell their own story with their own image and their own words. You can find Healthcare is Human on social media, major podcast outlets to hear some of our conversations. Um, and I think that project really flowed from the creativity that was swirling around inside of me, unprocessed and undigested for so long in my career. I had told many medical students and residents and other people I had taught that a good part of my life was in shark mode. And shark mode for me was swimming and eating, basically just moving forward in my life, forward gaze, being a father, three children. My wife has a career as well. And I did that without really looking inside and thinking about like what's happening to me in this experience, and we could go through all of my different roles, just my own personal aging process, seeing my kids grow up in a different environment than I did, healthcare, the changes in healthcare, et cetera, et cetera. And Healthcare is Human started in that really difficult moment at the beginning of the pandemic when I knew that no matter what happened here in Martinsburg, West Virginia from COVID, that I was going to see every granular detail. And I really wanted to document that historically. So that's where it started. The project is really gone in many directions since then, and we've told dozens, if not hundreds, of stories since then. But to go back to, what does art do? I think art and creativity, express the inexpressible. Um, My friend and collaborator, the poet Renee Nicholson, likes to say, that the poetry works on you even before you understand it,
Mhm.
right? And we know that that's true of a painting, of a photograph, of a piece of music. It does something to us even before we're really able to consciously think about it. And I think it's been meaningful at any point during human history, but specifically for me today, it really helps me process the trauma of working in the American healthcare system, right? We don't really have a system of healthcare. We have a fragmented place that is really difficult to even be a patient or work in. And I think that trauma for me is really is art is the primary way that I deal with that. And what's really interesting is that if you have not read or don't own Your Brain on Art, How the Arts Transform Us, this is a phenomenal book that came out last year that really gets into kind of some of the scientific underpinnings of this. And so I think the neuro arts space is definitely one that I'm very interested in. And it's these type of skills and techniques are something that I'm incorporating into the residency program that I run here.
That's so wonderful. And that's why at our physician retreat that we're going to have learning. We're going to be talking about things that doctors want to talk about. We'll have time to break into small groups to have those discussions. And also the arts are going to be a part of it. Beatriz is going to lead us in a little abstract art where we have a line dancer coming, going to lead us in a little. Dr.
Love
Michael
it.
Hirsch will speak to why writing for physicians. And we'll also have Dr. Adrienne Towson is one of our guests coming. And Saturday night, she's going to show us a little ballroom dancing. She's also an orthopedic surgeon and an international ballroom dancer. And music is going to be an important part throughout the retreat. So the arts, I fully understand it. And I'm so glad that you embrace it and are willing to share all of this with us. It's fantastic. Jodie, did you have any words that came to mind in hearing what Beatriz and Ryan had to say?
I'm taking it all in as I had in reading their pieces. And you just you give off, and I think as magnets draw in inwardly to you compassion. And I know we have compassion fatigue, for ourselves, right? As individuals, it can happen with patients, certainly within the system, which I think is the medical industrial complex. It's not a healthcare system. It's different conversation.
Yeah.
But we know that now it's about profits over people, but collectively we can help, as I had said before, we can shift that. We can influence policy, make changes by working with others. And but it takes people brave enough and courageous enough to share their stories and help to reduce stigma, as well as come up with solutions, creative ideas. Like what you shared today, Beatrice and Ryan, is just absolutely wonderful. I love that.
Well, thank you, Jody. That's so well said. And as we wind down, I'd like you each to share in a sentence what's your take home action message for our audience. So, Beatrice, and then Ryan, and then Jody.
Okay. You've done enough. You are enough.
Oh,
Be authentic and let your colors flow.
love that.
In a world of technology, be sure that you take some time for the analog skills of getting outside, speaking, playing, singing, or something, even if it's off key or bothers somebody else.
And again, as a non-clinician but a caregiver, um, always remember to take care of yourselves as caregivers. You care for everyone else, and every physician is a patient too, right? As you've discussed, not automatons. And I'm out there with Kim and others trying to get that message out there.
Thank you all. I've loved every minute of this and I can't wait to share it. And also to our listeners, please reach out if you're interested in sponsoring an episode. It helps to sustain this work. And thank you again for being my guests, Beatriz and Ryan and Jodie.
Thank
So
you
happy
so
to be with
much.
you all.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
so much.
Yes. This was wonderful. Thank you.
You're very welcome. So, in closing, to move the needle in healthcare, we all need to raise our voices and we all need to care about each other. We already know that doctors need to care about patients. Patients need to care about doctors too. So, stand up, doctors, and let's stand up for doctors.
Love it. Yes.